this theater here. Just kind of see what they have to offer. Just kind of wrap this up because this whole thing started, like I said, my dad used to take my sister and I to the theater all the time, and just boxing up some DVDs and stuff yesterday. I got to thinking about him because, like I said, he's not doing so hot right now. He's been dealing with cancer for a while, and with his old age and everything, I think everything's just starting to catch up and take its toll on him. And it's one of those things where you just never really know like what's going to influence you and what's going to change you, and then also like what's going to stick with you later on in life. And you know, he used to take us to the movies. I mean, he's always enjoyed movies. You know, he had the laser disc player, and you know, growing up, my sister and I, you know, if he would find used VCRs and stuff for us like all the time. I think one year he finally broke down and bought my sister like a brand new, like really cute, like compact little VCR, really cute little model. But we always had like VCRs in our room, and you know, like he always appreciated film, old black and white films, like, you know, making sure like when we were growing up, like not only did we watch like Freddy and Jason and stuff like that, but we also watched like the old Draculas and the Mummies and what have you. But you know, that's something that like as you get older, you can kind of grow out of and find your own thing and find your own path. And it really became a path that like I just followed, and it led to like comic books and all of the things that really that I'm into really all like boiled down to movies. And like, you know, I owe so much of that to my dad, and I think that was kind of like the whole reason for me kind of like hopping on and not just like talking about the movies that he took us to see, but really just giving him, I guess, a little shout out as well, because you know, again, there are times where I talk about movies, and some people are like, "Yeah, I've never seen that. I've never seen this. I've never like," and they're like, well, "How did you see so many movies?" I'm like, "My dad just took us." Like, I just felt like it was just like something you did, and again, I think my dad did it because it was like it was cheap. You know, it wasn't like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." This kind of reminds me of like some of the theaters back home, for sure. Get a ticket. Where's my ticket? I guess I gotta walk in. Sequel 2. That's so freaking hilarious. I want to watch that movie. Sequel 2. That looks awesome. That looks like something that would have come out in the 90s for me. What time is it? Am I early? Oh, I'm early. Oh, I'm like so early. But yeah, you know, it's just something ironic. Like I said, I worked in a video store growing up. You know, if you've ever seen any of those movies, like Be Kind, Rewind, or anything like that, Clerks. You know, like I kind of grew up working in that environment, working in a video store, and I was that guy who watched every single movie that came out. You know, we were told to you know, like, you know, or kind of encourage, like, make sure you watch, I'm just trying to make sure this is what I'm reading correctly over here. Bitch Trunk? Morning Wood, Bitch in the Trunk, Weasel. Sequel to Weasel, Morning Wood, Bitch in the Trunk. Is this another theater? It looks like this is another theater, but you can't go into this one. Oh, this one's been closed down. It's so weird. They got like two theaters like right across from each other. Tivoli. But yeah, you know, I was at, you know, that guy who worked at, who worked at the video store and watched every single film. And like I said, we were kind of encouraged to but not everybody that I worked with would. Like, you know, some movies would come out, they're like, oh man, I've been waiting to see this, you know, like maybe I'm trying to think of a movie that would have come out back in like 1998, 1999 that everybody would have been on top of to catch. But you know, there'd be like some like new release or whatever, some new action movie, maybe something with like, you know, Keanu Reeves or maybe like Lost World, with like the Jurassic Park movie would probably like be a good example. But that was probably like 1990s. That was like a little bit early. I think actually I don't know if I was working at the video store then. Gosh, why can't I think of like one big mega movie that everybody, for some reason, You've Got Mail sticks out in my head really hard. Like for some reason that was a big movie, believe it or not. You've Got Mail was what everybody was waiting to rent back in 1998, 1999. Gosh, what else? What was another big one? I think I talked about Godzilla before, and like how nowadays we kind of get these movies like Godzilla, King Kong, and all this stuff, and it's just kind of like where special effects are at. We kind of expect to see more stuff like that. We had a Godzilla back in 1998 that was a really big blockbuster. And again, I think that was one that everybody was really anticipating and really looking forward to renting. Some of the Matrix films, I think, like like the original Matrix. Again, that was like I think the Matrix movies were later. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of anything right now. That's so funny that like everybody was looking to rent back then. They were just, you know, movies like Enemy of the State. You know, it's just like I'm trying to think of like what was a big franchise back then. Maybe Mission Impossible or something like that. But like, you know, nowadays like there's so many franchises between DC, Star Wars, Marvel movies, Harry Potter's, Fantastic Beasts. Like, you know, everybody's always looking for like the next big movie and that next big thing in the franchise. And I can't really think. You know what was really big was like Bug's Life, I think. You know, everybody was looking forward to like Bug's Life when that came out. You know, Pixar was really taking off back in the early 2000s, late 90s. But yeah, anyway, so like I was the guy who was like encouraged to watch like, you know, everything, and I did. I watched all the movies before they came out. Even stuff like I remember like I would watch like I think like there was like a Brave Little Toaster movie came out, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get down with this. I'm going to watch this. This is going to be awesome. And it was really bad. It was really cheesy, but I watched it. And then also there was like movies that, this is something that's a concept that people might not understand, especially if you're younger, because this is just like kind of weird. So nowadays we have like so many streaming services, and like, you know, there'll be a movie like Turning Red, or even something like live action on Disney that like just goes straight to Disney Channel, you know, like it's not on or it's not in the theater, let's say, you know. During the pandemic we had a lot of stuff that was going to the theater that dropped on a streaming service just for safety reasons, so people didn't have to be in the theater and they could watch these things. When I was growing up, and when Buck was growing up, Buck knows what I'm talking about. Andrew might kind of remember some of this. I don't know, dude. You have to let me know. There was something called straight to video. And so growing up, we had movies come out in the theater, okay, guys? And then a little while later, they would come out on video. And they weren't DVDs. They were cassette tapes, like VHS tapes, okay? We put them in a VCR. And so they would come out, we would go to the video store, and we would be able to rent them, or we could go to a video store and we could buy them. They never came really with like special features or behind the scenes. There wasn't like deleted scenes. You couldn't skip to the movie. You had to put the tape in and just let the tape play, you know. And when it was over, you had to rewind it if you wanted to watch it again, okay? Nowadays, you can just put a DVD in and just play it, right, guys? No. You could just click on it and just play it. You had to put it in, and if you wanted to watch it again, you had to rewind the video, which took a few minutes. Some people had an actual automatic tape rewinder, so that way they could take a video out, rewind it, and put another tape in the VCR and continue watching. Because if you have to think about it, if you rent 5 movies for $5 for $5.99, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back and watch the first part to this and the second part to this to know what I'm talking about. If you rent 5 movies for $5 for $5.99, and you start watching, you know, your movie, and you finish your movie, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Now you want to watch, you know, Adventures in Babysitting. Well, you have to rewind that first tape first, right? You have to rewind it later. Some people get lazy, and that's always a pain in the ass. I hate those people. But you have to rewind the tape. So you can't just watch Adventures of Babysitting right away, you know? So then you have to rewind the tape, wait a couple of minutes, put in Adventures of Babysitting, watch the previews, because again, you can't just like skip to the movie, you know? You could fast forward, but then you run the risk of not only damaging the tape, but also going too far into the movie and then having to rewind the movie to start over, because we all know Adventures of Babysitting, the best part of that movie is the beginning when Elizabeth Shue is dancing around in her bedroom singing into her hairbrush. I mean, come on, that's the best part of the movie. You don't want to go too fast and all of a sudden she's already showing up at the kid's house ready to babysit. That's like, no, that's not how you start the movie. So, if there was none of this, alright, I'm going to watch Ant-Man, and then as soon as Ant-Man's over, Disney Plus pulls up, alright, now watch Ant-Man and Wasp, and you can just click on it and watch it right away. There was none of that. That did not exist back then, okay? So you'd have to, like, you know, rewind the tapes. You know, and I'm sorry, I'm actually getting kind of caught up in this. Just a little bit of story. This is so weird. And like I said, some people would actually get little tape rewinders, so that way they could just like eject the tape, put it in the tape rewinder, and then put the next movie in to kind of like cut out at least a couple of minutes of your viewing time. And they had some cool ones. They had like automatic tape rewinders that looked like cars, and you like push down the hood, it would like pop up. You put the tape in, you push it down, and and it would, you know, rewind it. So anyway, so like that's how that worked. And then sometimes they had movies that didn't go to the theater, okay? They would just go straight to video, and that was an actual term, straight to video. And to give you an example, Disney did a lot of straight to video, and then as video stores got really popular in the late 90s, a lot of companies like Miramax and trying to think of some other ones. Miramax really stands out in my head for some reason, would do a lot of straight to video. And then there was like some straight to video companies like Full Moon, was like a horror straight to video kind of company. Like they would just put movies out, like, you know, really low budget horror films or whatever, and they wouldn't come out in the theater. So that's something you have to kind of think about. Like today we kind of have like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and different streaming services that will put out original films. Like you have a Netflix original films, and you have like Hulu original, Prime original films, and that's kind of like the equivalent, I guess, of what I'm getting at. But back in the day, like Cinderella, I'm talking Disney movies here, Tarzan, and like Beauty and the Beast, movies like that would go to the theater. Like that's how you would see those movies. Aladdin, you know, that's how you saw Aladdin, when you go to the theater to see Aladdin. And then they would do like Aladdin 2, and that would go straight to video. So like it wouldn't come out in the theater, and that's the only way you could see it, and it wouldn't be like sometimes as good quality and production value as, let's say, the original. Like if you it could actually probably if you have Disney Plus, go on there and find Aladdin or Tarzan and watch those movies, and then go find like Tarzan 2 and some of the sequels to Aladdin, and you're gonna see that like the production value isn't quite there. So that was something kind of interesting too. Like growing up, we had this concept of like straight to video, and you know sometimes actors would like, you know, these really big time actors would sometimes be in like these just really weird bizarre movie. Like there was like this really huge flood of just videos. It was a big money thing, you know. It was like, I think some companies realized like, hey, look, you know, like Disney realized and Miramax, some of these companies realized, which I think they were all, I think like Disney owned all these companies. That's probably why they were doing it. But that, like, you know, there was money to be made in the video store and renting videos. You know, people would sometimes just rather rent a video than like go to the movie. And I think that was because like, you know, it was getting more expensive. Like, you know, I mentioned before, like one of the reasons my dad took us to the theater every weekend wasn't because like we were loaded. It's because it was something cheap to do. I think when you were a kid, they always like paid your parents to take you to the movie. You know what I mean? Like, we'll give you $20 if you just bring your kids to the movie, please. You know, just buy the popcorn. Yeah. Just buy popcorn and a drink, and we'll give you $20 if you bring your kids to the freaking movie. I don't know how it worked back then, but yeah, movies got more expensive to go see. Like concessions got more expensive, and I think it just became more fun and more affordable to just rent, you know, a couple of videos, pop them into VCR. You know, perfect date nights. You know, just be like, get some microwave popcorn, grab a couple of VHS tapes from your local Blockbuster or Movie Time or whatever, Hollywood Video, and you and your girlfriend could just kind of hang out on the couch, you know, the lights dimmed, and laugh at, you know, goofy movies like whatever, Something About Mary, and you know, put in some cool action film like Hard Target, you know, and that was like kind of like where the fun and I think where a lot of this like now home streaming and all that kind of like spiraled from, you know, the home video aspect. But like I said, it's just something interesting that really stuck with me because, you know, I talked to a lot of people even my age, and they're always blown away like how many movies I've seen, and you know, sometimes even like watching films, I think a lot of my relatives will tell you, you know, you kind of have to like cut the raw commentary off, you know. God forbid you sit through a movie that I've already sat through and I've already watched the behind the scenes and I'm really into. It's like, oh man, you've got to watch this movie. You've got to see this movie. It's so cool, you know. And then like, you know, I couldn't just let you watch, you know, Matrix Reloaded. I would have to explain to you how they built the entire highway for the highway chase and how they did this and how they did that. It's just like, all right, cool. Can I just watch the movie and just enjoy it? So thanks, Dad, for all of that. And like you said, you know, it's like that led to comic books, you know, real quick. You know, I remember, like I said, growing up watching horror movies, you know, he got me into horror comics. You know, my sister and I loved that Creepshow movie. We loved the Creepshow comic. He got us comics that were horror comics. I didn't know that I liked them. Turned out I loved them. And then that led to Spider-Man and Superman and Batman and all these, you know, superhero comics that I still have to this day. And what turned into just having a couple of stacks and maybe like a box or two of comics. I now have 20 boxes of comics, and I need to get a couple of more. A couple more boxes. I think at least I need to get at least 2 or 3 more boxes of comics, and one is to replace. I have one in like a metal ammo crate, which I don't really like. So I want to get one just to take those out and replace those. But I need like another box for Spawn. I need another box for my Marvel stuff. I need another box for my Batman stuff and DC stuff. I mean, it's just insane. So I think by April, I'm going to be looking at like 24 boxes of comic books, and that all spiraled out of my love for movies. And you know, it's like I still, again, read those to this day. So thank you, Dad. You know, my love for how movies are made, my passion for like looking at like, you know, not just seeing how cool and action. I mean, there are movies that I look at nowadays and I'm like, man, that is so cool, and I wonder how they did that. But I still find myself looking at movies like the original Superman with Christopher Reeve, and like, how did, you know, some of these angles where like I know he's on a crane, I know he's getting pulled up, but then he twists and he turns, and like, how was that done? And it's just amazing. I know now, I figured it out. Like, I watched the behind the scenes, and I know. And then when I finally learn, I'm like, that is so cool. That is amazing. Like how Richard Donner and his team were able to kind of sit back and figure out, okay, not only are we going to make Superman fly straight up off of this building, but we're going to make it look like just as he flies, he's going to turn and kind of swoop around a little bit, just kind of add a little bit more flair, like give the audience something they've never really seen before. And it's just, oh man, it's so cool. And just, you know, again, thank you, Dad. So neat, so neat. Like I said, just sitting back yesterday, man, like I said, just kind of thinking about it, and it's just really, really wild when you, like I said, think about the little pieces of who you are and where they came from. You know? That's why I like going to Universal, why I like going to Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge at Disney Hollywood Studios, why I love Hollywood Studios, like walking through there, that old, when they're playing that old music, and it's got the 1930s, 1940s film noir feel to it, and it's got the old classic cars, and just that feeling of, like, you know, that classic era, you know, the Twilight Zone's Tower of Terror and all of that. Like, that's why I love that so much, because, you know, there's something in me. Like, some people can go and I think appreciate it and have a good time, but when I walk through and I hear that music, it's just, there's something that like whispers to me. It's like, it's absolutely amazing. And again, just have to say, thank you, Dad. And thank you guys for hanging out. That was a lot of fun. Really, really cool. And as promised, I'm going to shoot you. All right, so I was talking about this just a moment ago. I have a pitch for Transformers.
What the hell is that?
Okay. And what I would do to finish up that franchise, because, all right, I got you, R4. We're going to wrap this up real quick with my pitch here, because I think I mentioned my pitch in my last video. So here's my pitch. This is what I would do. So we have 5 Transformer films, okay? There needs to be a 6th to wrap up that trilogy. Now we have Bumblebee, which isn't, I don't count that. Okay, that's kind of like a standalone film. And they've got another movie which is kind of more like a reboot, okay, to, I guess, the whole origin story. We need to wrap up that 5th movie with a 6th piece with everybody back, like they're doing with Jurassic Park. You know, they got a 6th movie with Jurassic Park. They're doing 2 trilogies. They're bringing everybody back for the whole thing, like they did with Star Wars, like they do with everything. They need to bring everybody back from all of the Star Wars. Shia, you know, Marky Mark, everybody. Get Megan Fox back in there. Let's get everybody back, okay? Now, there's also been 2 G.I. Joe movies. Let's scrap Snake Eyes. That was garbage. Let's forget about that. Let's do a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover film, which we've all wanted to see. We've all loved it. It's a great idea. Hasbro, you own both pieces, okay? We can do this. Paramount, we can put it out. And then that movie will be the 3rd piece to the G.I. Joe franchise. Give us a trilogy on G.I. Joe. Give us 2 trilogies on Transformers, and connect the 2 franchises all in one. Tell me what you think about that, guys, down in the comment. Shoot me a thumbs up for support. Please share this video. I bet you there are some friends out there who are going, man, that would be a cool idea. I would pay the $20 to go see that in the theater, huh? Make sure you subscribe, guys. You never know what the hell is going to come out of my mouth, what we're going to be doing here. Excuse me. Always fun here on Rob's Arcade. Tons of stuff. Midweek breakdowns, new comic book day, video game, new game Fridays, just toy unboxings. You never know. Make sure you subscribe. Don't miss anything. Thank you guys for hanging out, listening to me talk about just random junk, getting all that crap out of my head. Make sure you don't miss the next video, because this is not goodbye, simply to be continued. And until next time, don't spend that quarter anywhere else. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys. Oh, that looks like a cool movie to watch. I'm gonna go make some popcorn and go watch a movie. Take care. Later.